Good morning, PT on Ice. Happy Monday. It is Monday, the 26th of March. March is almost over. We're rolling into April quickly, and I'm here for a little bit of Monday with Pop. So this morning, just going to kind of jump right into it. I'm not sure, sort of how this is going to come together. Good morning, Sean. This is something that I've kind of got all these thoughts swirling around in my head. So this is usually where it gets a little bit disjointed and dangerous. And to make things even a little funnier, I have misplaced the watch. This is terrible news. So people who have followed on this for a while know that I am going to be a little off this morning. I've got my clock running in the background here. I can watch, but this is a little bit like new territory for me. I feel like I'm kind of swimming in the open ocean a little. So officially not going to start the watch, but I'm going to keep an eye on the time. So as if we had started the watch, let's get into it. So this morning is about being back on the run, and it's kind of a funny, sort of like a funny thing happened to me on the way to the podcast this morning. And the basics of it are this. So last week, and I let the APHPT community know about this last week. But last week, I was made aware of an opportunity, quote unquote, to take a challenge. And I'm always up for a challenge of some kind, but for the right reason. And it has to be sort of a challenge that I think is worth doing. So the challenge came through like this. My younger brother, who's a fitness guy and works with me, said, how about do a marathon, in the next 30 days? And I was kind of like, all right, so, I haven't trained in a while. I haven't run really long in a while, longer than a few miles. I mean, I try to keep myself fit, but I certainly haven't been a runner in a while. But this opportunity is a good one, and you'll sort of make sense of it as we go. But the basics of it is within about a 30-day period, can you do a marathon? So that was kind of like one thing sticking in my head, and I thought, all right, that's kind of cool, and maybe I'll do it. And I've been talking about it now with him for probably a month before that even, and I just kind of ignored it. So that was sort of step number one. Step number two was, we've been talking a lot in APHPT, both in the course and in the community, about this idea of kind of doing, of not just kind of talking about it, not just kind of having this information out there all the time, but actually going out and doing. And I think that was accelerated this past week with the Lancet series, which I'm sure anybody on this podcast and or live has seen. This Lancet series came out about low back pain, and and a lot of the information that they're talking about fits very much within the model of the applied prevention therapist, right? So the idea that that we're not going to fix back pain by simply looking at mechanical things and interventions, but that we have to deal with the whole person and that all of the baggage that comes with them, the people in their life, the people not in their life, the connectedness that they have or don't have, their ability to endure and understand pain, sort of their overall health in general, not just kind of their physical functioning, but the whole person. So there was that. And then there's kind of like this doing idea in the back of my mind combined with that. And it's like, all right, how do we begin to take that message forward? And there are a lot of really, really good ideas out there. And that's been one of the things that I've kind of really locked into and enjoyed over the last year with APHPT, and especially with the CERT Pros, is that during the coursework, we're finding so much of their information comes out, and they've got these really, really awesome ideas. You got some folks this cohort who have really big goals and are doing some cool stuff and kind of getting the ball rolling in their towns and their communities. But ultimately, it comes down to this same question over and over and over again. Like, we know this is the right way to go. We know it needs to be done. I'm not 100% sure how to get started, but one of the biggest concerns that I have is how am I going to get paid? And that's not like I don't think it's the kind of concern where people are being, sort of nickel and diming and saying I have to get paid. It's all about making money. It's not that. It's just I have to cover my bases. I have, a life to lead. I have mouths to feed. I have, kids and family and bills to pay and all that other good stuff. And that's very real. And so that's been on my mind a lot because what we know is that once you get started, the getting paid part kind of takes care of itself. But getting started is hard. You have to kind of get the ball rolling, and it's very entrepreneurial. You're kind of rolling up your sleeves and getting, in the thick of things, and really making some cool headway. But it's work, and it takes time and it takes effort. So that's an important one. So those three things have kind of been swirling in my brain, and then I sort of saw this Lancet series and I said, all right, maybe the time is right. And I was on a text string with my brother and a few folks from Proactivity, and he finally said, hey, you better do this. If you're going to do it, you got to do it now or never. Like this is the time. And so I decided this might be an opportunity to kickstart what I think is a really important initiative and something that I'm really excited about, which I'm calling the Opportunity Suite. Right? Or the Opportunity Vault, the Opportunity Vault. And the Opportunity Vault is an idea, a very simple concept that the APHPT and communities like ours, so whether that be if you're in kind of the APHPT community, or whether you're in the ICE community, or whether you're in the conservative care community, or whether you just are a citizen who cares about trying to change this mess of healthcare that we have, if that's you, then we need some ability to fund. We need a way of kind of funding small projects where people are kind of getting their feet under them. Microlending is one of those types of mechanisms. It's this idea that you give a person a very, very small loan, and they build on their successes, right? It gives them something, they can kind of do it, pay their bills, and then they go to the next thing. And that leads itself to demonstration projects. And what demonstration projects allow us to do is to show that this isn't just theoretical, to actually get into the applied and then get it done, right? Say, hey, like I'm going to do this little bit, even if it's only a little tiny thing, even if I'm going to put 1/2 day a month into it, but I can produce something, and then I can show that this concept works, and then you can kind of have proof of concept and build from there, and maybe you go out and get some kind of external funding at that point. Maybe it's a grant, maybe you get investors, maybe you actually can then approach a workplace in your community, maybe you can approach the profession, like whatever that is. But you have to be able to show data that it actually works. It's not, people don't want to fund theoretical constructs. What they want to fund is stuff that works. And the only way to make sure that your stuff works is to get out there and actually do it. So that was the concept. So here's the challenge that I'm laying out in the next less than 30 days at this point, because we're a week into it already. And the challenge is this. I'm going to run a marathon with almost no training, right? With about 20 days of training or so, before, April 20th. That was kind of the end date. I'm going to run a marathon. I started training last week, and I'm going to do that with 100% of any proceeds that I raise to go to this micro lending and microloan project. So I'll put some links up in afterward in this feed, and I'll throw it out there, and we'll put it on social media and stuff. But basically, very, very simple. The concept is this: you pledge. To pay up to whatever amount you want, but we've been throwing out $25 if I am able to, on less than 30 days of training, complete a 4-hour marathon. Now, why do we pick 4 hours? Because A, I can't do a 3-hour marathon. I've never been able to do that. I've gotten close a couple times, but never been able to do it. And B, that will be a challenge. It will not. There's no way that this is a lock for me on no training. I've gone out and I tested a couple of runs, but the idea. I think I lost some people there. In the next 30 days, run this marathon. And the concept is to show what can you do in 30 days of fitness. What is possible? That's the test that I want to run. What's possible for me, for a 40-plus-year-old guy who hasn't been training lately, but has a fairly decent base? Now, why would I choose that? I chose running, at least for me, because I want to prove out this concept of, in a sense, this vaccination on pain concept that we hear get thrown around a little bit, right? That for me, because I've done some endurance sports, I have a little bit of like old flu shots in the system is kind of the way to think of it. When we give people flu shots, they'll say, well, even if it misses the mark this year, at least you'll have it in your system, and so if you have exposure to the flu, your body will be able to fight a little bit against it. So I'm looking at that on the positive side of it. If I've got many, many miles in and my body's kind of used to this, I should be able to recognize the stimulus, adapt to it, and not go down the rabbit hole of pain. And so that's kind of that inoculation against pain idea. And I think that, this is one way for me to test that personally. If I can do that and I can have a fun time doing it, which running a marathon is generally a fun time for me, that's a good thing. And if I can do that and we can inspire others to take some reason to have some demonstration projects on their own, that's a huge victory. If we can do that and people would rather donate to this cause so that we can fund other people to do microloan type projects, then that's awesome too. So that's kind of the concept, is that before April 20th, we are going to see who can either put some money where their mouth is or put their body where their mouth is, and that is do something for health, for fitness, as a rev up and a ramp up. And what are we ramping up to? Well, Summer Move is right around the corner, of course. So if you paid attention last year, that we had quite a few people doing some fun stuff, and we have that planned again. This year we were able to raise some money, for some good causes and do some things that kind of showcased the benefit of being active and being healthy. So same basic concept. So that's the basics of it. And where I'm hoping that we'll go, and like I said, I'll put that link up. I'm hoping that we'll get to the point where we are actually beginning to slowly and steadily infiltrate communities with very well thought out, very effective, although small, projects that can show people that, look, these conservative approaches to care can make a difference. That, yes, we can pick on low back pain. It's an N equals everyone situation, and we can go after it, and we can begin to have very, very simple things that the traditional healthcare system does not value enough to pay for. But they're the things that matter. They're the things that actually help people, actually stay healthy and not have long-term problems with pain. And so we want to be able to prove that out. We've got to start showing it in our communities. The only way we're going to start showing it in our communities is by doing things and measuring the result. The only way that we're going to do things and measure the result is by actually putting ourselves in that space. And I think it's a whole lot easier if you can do that without having to constantly give away your time, that you can actually do that and at least pay for your costs of doing so. No one's giving away money for that kind of a thing. And so I figured, well, if no one's doing it and it matters, why not us? Why can't we get started? So pass the word along. I'll ask you to do that and think about it over the next couple of days, but don't think too long, because April 20th will be here before you know it, about what you might pledge, about what you might be able to do, and about how you'll bring some inspiration into your community, whatever community that is, whether it's a community of therapists, whether it's a community in your town, whether it's your family, whatever that is, to show that 30 days or less of focus can make a difference in your health. I, of course, believe it can, and I will go in today and actually take some blood markers to show this and prove this, because I'll be tracking it pretty tightly, and we'll see what a 40-year-old body who puts some miles in over the next few weeks can do, with hopefully without getting broken down or injured. As far as the status update, I told the APHPT crew on Saturday. I ran for 2 hours on Saturday. So far, I've got 2 training runs in. I ran the first day in the snow, 8 miles, and the second day I ran for 2 hours to see how that would go. It was not a total disaster, but it certainly wasn't a victory. I wouldn't call it a victory. So this is by no means a lock, but spread the word. Something crazy happening with APHPT, all for of course, a good cause. All right, I'm going to leave it there this morning. I hope that's the kind of thing that you can kind of get into, and I hope that's the kind of thing that you start to see how these pieces fit together. And the pieces that fit together, again, remember, is the doing is what brings people to watch. That watching is what allows us to spread the word. When people start to put the pieces together, that spreading the word is what allows other sources of influence to kind of get around the table. That's how we're going to solve this thing. We solve it by being able to have the right folks around the table, having a very honest and open discussion. The only way we do that is by getting them there. The easiest way for us to do that is by action. All right. It's Monday. It's only Monday. Just getting started. Make it count.